located at 62 Barking Road, East Ham, E6 3BP.
Why spend summer in your room when you can fly off to your dream destination with facilities like car hire and hotel bookings? Well, Flight Masters have got you covered. We offer holiday packages, city breaks and flights at the most reasonable prices with the best provision of services. So why delay? Call us today on 0203 598 9938 or visit our website at www.flightmasters.com.
Through Minhaj Welfare Foundation, your giving saves lives. Your support has provided more than 3 million people with access to clean and safe water, emergency relief in natural disaster and crisis-affected areas around the world, supported orphans and needy children with a better future. This year, your help can do more. Donate your zakat, sadaqah and charitable donations to any of your chosen projects. Call now on 0300 30 30 777 or visit us at minhajwelfare.org.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the Healthy Ramadan Show. My name is Abdul Malik. I'm your host. Welcome to the show. This is the last show of the month of Ramadan. So what we envisage doing today is to cover a lot of the ground that we've mentioned in the previous shows. If you do have any questions in terms of your health needs, we would appreciate you calling into the studio. I just wanted to remind you of the studio number, which is 0333 011 6786. We're also on Facebook Live, www.ramadanfm2018. You can email us your questions, you can tweet, you can drop us a comment on Facebook, give us your thoughts around how you found the month of Ramadan in terms of managing your health needs. Today we have a guest of mine. His name is Usman Sharif. He's a third-year medical student at Keele Medical School. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Usman, thank you for joining us today.
Wa alaikum assalam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to everyone. And Jazakallah khair for calling me on your show today. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. As you realise, Usman has given up his time to join us in the studio. So you have got an opportunity to direct any kind of questions that are related to your medical needs. Usman has got a reasonable amount of knowledge in terms of his medical background. He spent a lot of time with various disease-related issues. So you can call in, feel free to ask any questions you wish that need answering. We'll do our very best to answer them.
And just to add on to that, anyone who's got questions of getting into medical school, more than happy to answer that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Why not? I think it's a good time to think about your health, and anybody that's interested in gaining some insight into what it is like in terms of the world of medicine, yeah, please do call in and share your thoughts. Okay, we've pretty much gone through a long and exhausting month this year because the days have been getting longer as opposed to the days have been getting shorter. So that's really quite an uphill struggle for most people, and sustaining that effort in terms of your fast and having your motivation and more so your energy levels. Energy levels tend to wane a lot as you go through the month. Have you come across anything in terms of ways people have dealt with that, or any concerns that people have raised when it comes to sustaining your fast and making sure you're well hydrated and eating the right kind of foods to kind of make you more able to sustain the fast? Because the last 10 days, alhamdulillah, is very rewarding, but at the same time it can be very demanding on individuals who have got health needs.
Yeah, that's a great question actually. And if you look at most people as well, it's the last 10 days when they start to sort of decline, they start to get a bit more lazy. It's just because fasting, especially in England these days, when we're fasting for just over 18 hours, it's quite hard on the body, especially when you're going through 30 days. So research actually has shown quite a lot on this. So it shows that people, they got people who volunteers, and they took blood tests before Ramadan started and afterwards as well, and monitored them throughout Ramadan.
Yeah.
And they found that the energy levels, especially in the last 10 days, are much, much lower than they were at the start. And that's why most people actually get through the first 20 days more or less fine. It's only when they come to the last 10 days.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to tackle that is a lot goes down onto diet. Dehydration is a massive problem, and a lot of people underestimate how much water they need and how much water the body will require over the 18-19 hours of fast. And I think the best way to do that is to make sure that you get well dehydrated between iftar and suhoor.
Yeah.
So what my aim used to be was to get somewhere between 1.5 liters to 2 liters between iftar and suhoor. So that was, most people, what they do is, as soon as iftar happens, they drink a lot of water and then forget everything until suhoor. But the best thing is to balance that out between all the hours. So whether that's a cup of tea, whether that's a normal glass of water, or whether that's a glass of juice, you can add it in different ways you can. But the important thing is to get at least 1.5 to 2 liters of water between that time in order for your body to sustain it. Especially the weather's been actually quite warm compared to most years, so you do lose a lot of water. The other thing is diet, especially what we eat. In our community, you know, the type of food we eat is quite spicy with a lot of salt intake inside.
Absolutely.
And what that does is it drags the water out of the cells, unfortunately, and that actually leads to dehydration. So the best thing is to eat foods such as pasta, which release sugar and energy really slowly into the body and actually help you for a longer fast. A lot of your energy sources are depleted by this point because initially what the body does is use all the fat. Once the fat sources are depleted, it starts to go into your proteins, your muscles essentially. And if you're not providing enough energy with your diet, if you're eating stuff like samosa and pakora, which are quite high in salt and quite high in spice, it's important to make sure that you actually balance it well with, say, a good amount of carbs. Egg is a very good source. It's a good source of protein as well. So, and also making sure that people neglect fruit at this point. Your body is depleted of minerals, vitamin C, a lot of the other important minerals as well. So it's important to make sure that your balance between your fruit and your diet is critically important. And actually, we're probably in the last day of Ramadan today. The most important thing is to carry this on for the next few months.
We will talk about that in terms of what we need to do in the future. It's very important that we embed some of our good practices during Ramadan. I would like to just touch on what you've just said now in terms of people's kind of notions around what is a good iftar. I've witnessed many iftar gatherings to date, and I will tell you, I don't think I've come across a single healthy iftar. Personally speaking, even in my household, I think we haven't got the balance right. Why is it that there's this overwhelming desire to kind of gorge on food in terms of samosa, pakora, all the salty, high-fat related foods? It's almost like it has to be on the table. If it's not on the table, then it's a big issue. So I think it's just about people's mindsets around this. We all talk prior to Ramadan to say, I think it would be better to look at a different approach. But when it actually comes to the time, it's the same pitfall. We all fall for the same pitfall in terms of our desires tend to be overwhelming at the very point of breaking fast. I mean, I don't think we even drink enough water, to be honest with you. Definitely. Like you're saying, you're talking about liters and liters of water. Sometimes for people, it's just physically impossible to, condense all that in from the time of breaking fast around about 9:30, and then you've got your prayers, and then you've got to start your suhoor around about 2:30 at the latest. So it's very, very difficult. It's very well saying, you need to do this, you need to do. How do you physically do that? I find it quite difficult to not only entertain that for myself, but to tell somebody, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing that. it doesn't work very well for most people, I have to say.
No, you're right. It can be quite daunting initially, but the best way to do it is to scattering everything out. That's what I see best. So instead of drinking 3 glasses of water, which you're really thirsty. So basically what happens is when you're going through a long period of starvation, such as what we're doing right now, when you come close to iftar time, your brain processes that in a different way. Because of your starvation, your body's already released the hormones asking you to eat. It's already giving you the signals, I need some food, I need something. That's when your memory triggers. That's when your memory in your cells around your food trigger, and they sort of remind you of the stuff that tastes good. So that's why we have such a craving for samosas and pakoras, because we know they taste great. And your brain's telling you need to eat. And actually what it does, it tells you, do you know what? If you're eating, might as well eat something good that you enjoy. So that's where that part of eating samosas, pakoras, and that sort of diet kicks in. But about drinking water and how you eat, the Prophet ﷺ was the best example here as well. And actually, Islam teaches us moderation really, really well. The Prophet ﷺ used to open his fast with a date and a glass of water. And then even to drink water throughout the day, throughout that time, instead of having 3 glasses of water straight away, what people should do is start by having a glass of water, eat a little bit, and then after a little while have another glass of water. So it's not having completely 2 to 3 glasses here, 2 to 3 glasses there, or have a whole bottle before sahur. The best way is to judge it accordingly. So what I do normally is I have a glass of water before I open when I open my iftar. I have a glass of water after I finish. Then I have a nice cup of tea. Then I have a glass of water before I go to Tarawih, one after Tarawih, and one at sahur. And I've actually found that completes my requirement. And I've felt that to be perfectly normal. And what you've talked about, a healthy iftar, is quite difficult to actually explain a healthy iftar. And to get the right balance is really, really difficult. The important thing is to stay away, to help your cravings essentially. To stay away from the cravings of samosa and pakora and stuff. And I've spoken to a lot of people about this. I've spoken to a dietitian about this as well. And they said it is quite hard to restrict people when it comes to opening their fast. Because firstly, we're happy with whatever they eat, because at the end of the day they are getting energy. But secondly, they said the second important thing should be to get the right way, the right balance. And what they suggested to me was that open your fast as you would normally do. So have a glass of water, or in our case, I open it with a date and a glass of water, and then have a bit of fruit with it to start with it. So at least that way you get a bit of your sugar craving as well, and you get the nutrition of fruit. And then the best thing to have after is a salad. So in a salad you could put chicken, which adds your protein amount, and in a salad you can also put noodles as well. And noodles are an amazing source of carbohydrates as well. So you've got your source of nutrition from your 5-a-day vegetables, you've got a source of nutrition of proteins, and you've got a source of carbohydrates as well. And actually, to finish that, what most people do is again have a little bit more fruit, and that takes away the sugar cravings at the end. So in my opinion, that would be a perfect iftar. And actually, it's quite surprising what you say, how we can't stay away from these things. And I've actually, if I look back at the last 29 days that I've spent, my best iftar has probably been the one that I've just mentioned to you, that I've had when I was away at Kyoto at university, because I didn't have much availability to samosas and pakoras. And actually, those iftars were the one where I actually felt, you know, most times you feel bloated after an iftar.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I felt completely fine, and then I had a good amount to eat at sahur. I read my Taraweehs easily, and my sahur was perfectly easy for me as well. So the main thing is to make it easy for yourself, essentially.
A lot of people tend to suffer from bloatedness.
Definitely.
And then what you tend to end up doing is after your prayers, and then you staying up until you do your fajr. After that, you simply cannot get back to sleep.
Yep.
And if you've got commitments the following day, work, or you've got to take the children to school, or whatever it may be, you're really struggling for the best part of the day. And then that has a knock-on effect in terms of how you carry on your physical activity for the rest of the day, in terms of your mental capacity, your concentration levels, and your ability to do your day-to-day tasks. That's really a fundamental problem, and I think a lot of people have experienced headaches as well, and that's all down to hydration levels, I would imagine.
That is so headaches is quite common actually. If you look at papers as well, one of the most common side effects people have reported in Ramadan is headaches, primarily all down to dehydration. And what you've talked about, bloating, is quite an interesting topic actually, considering the fact that we're from an Asian background as well. That sort of adds into it. It's like a risk factor essentially. But what happens is during the whole 18 hours that you're fasting, you have something called peristalsis. So peristalsis is the movement that goes from your throat and all the way throughout your gastrointestinal system, so all the food pipe essentially, and that allows the movement of food all throughout the food pipe. And during fasting, that dampens down because you're not eating, so the body doesn't need to concentrate on it. And what that does, it decreases the amount of chemicals and hormones the body needs to break down the food because the food's not there at the end of the day. And then once you start eating suddenly at iftar, we have a tendency, like you mentioned, to just gobble on the food as much as we can essentially, and in a way that's an overwhelming system for your stomach, and it goes into an overdrive system where it actually tries to compensate for all the movement that's suddenly starting to happen, and because of that irregularity, that can lead to bloating. And the other thing is your body has your own bacteria which is good for you, and that helps in breaking down a lot of the food. And during Ramadan, because we're not eating much, they sort of get an imbalance because you've changed from the norm essentially. So that imbalance normally can lead to bloating as well. But the best way to conquer that is to eat, like I mentioned before, healthily instead of eating junk food like we mostly do actually. I know I'm going to admit that I do as well. But
I seem to see a lot of like KFC boxes rolling around in the studio. I'm not going to mention no names, but to be fair, I think we're all partial to some. It just breaks the monotony sometimes, doesn't it?
I think
little guilty pleasures aren't that bad every once in a while.
Definitely, and I think
if you can factor it into your healthy
diet. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, a healthy diet is somewhere where you can actually go out and eat some days. A healthy diet isn't having salads 5 days, like 365 days a week. It's actually making sure that majority of your diet is healthy. But I think we've all moved away from the real aspect of Ramadan. We've gone into a mode where I don't think many of us even stay at home for Ramadan. A lot of us are going out on iftar parties with friends, going to restaurants. And actually, we've lost the main gist of what Ramadan is, of spending time with your family, sitting together. I don't think all the family sits around the table to eat throughout the year. And Ramadan is the perfect time when everyone needs to eat at the same time. But unfortunately, I think we've moved away from that tradition. It's more of a time where we actually get together more with friends to eat rather than sitting down with family. And actually, when you go and socialize with friends, you're not going to be eating healthily. It's always going to be junk food. Sure. And if we come back to the core traditions of what Ramadan teaches us, of perseverance and actually having control on your desires and actually spending time with your family, because Ramadan isn't just about not eating and not smoking and not doing other stuff. It's actually more about building yourself as a personality, building your relationship with your brothers, with your sisters, your mum, your dad, people who you don't see throughout the year. Most of us work like crazy hours, antisocial hours, where we don't see our parents, where we don't see our siblings and our brothers and sisters. And this is a time where we need to sit down and actually our parents or wives or sisters make the best food, or brothers make the best food. And actually we should sit down with them and have that healthy food instead of going to restaurants and eating, which I think most people do quite a lot.
Yeah, I think...
And it's not, sorry to cut you off, but it's not those guilty pleasures. It's an everyday norm to eat outside now. When actually it should be something that should be once a week or once every few weeks, or just to make sure that you have that nice balance in your body.
I think sometimes we have to be a bit mindful of the fact that the whole essence of Ramadan is about feeling for the less well-off, the more needy, and the people that actually deserve some of our hard-earned money in terms of our wealth. I just wanted to ask you some frequently asked questions about Ramadan in terms of do's and don'ts, and see. Let's put you on the spot and see whether you can come up with the answers that I've got written in front of me.
All right. Feel like another exam today, but go on.
Who's exempt from fasting?
Okay, so it's quite controversial actually most times, but from what I've seen, from what I've heard, so obviously pregnant women are
Tick.
pregnant women definitely. People who've got a long-term condition, especially people with diabetes, old people who are frail, people. So obviously people who are under the age of baligh, women who are on their periods.
You've got them all.
Yeah, people on long-term medication, but I think that's more or less it.
That's fine. Should pregnant and breastfeeding women fast?
So that was quite controversial actually, and I was looking at a few papers before I actually came in.
Okay.
And it shows that pregnant women who actually fast, especially in these long hours. If it was December, my answer would be completely different. But especially in these long hours, it's shown that fetal growth actually declines during Ramadan, and I think at the end of the day, we need to think about the greater good that we're doing.
Yes.
And pregnancy is quite a blessed position to be in. And the health of the child has to be the utmost priority. And because a woman's health demands increase during pregnancy, and in Ramadan, our intake, our calorie intake is really low. And because the way the body gives the nutrition to the baby over the day, it's in quite a constant motion. And in Ramadan, you eat at one point and you eat again at the other point of the day. So it's quite a big gap there. So according to what I've seen, what I've heard, it's important that people who are pregnant should not fast. And people seem to forget that the first 12 weeks of pregnancy are incredibly important. The amount of stuff that happens, your whole the whole formation of a baby happens there actually, and most abnormalities that happen in babies actually happen in the first 12 weeks, and we seem to forget that. The last 12 weeks or the last 8 weeks of a baby is just to make sure that the size gets bigger. But the first 12 weeks, people ignore this fact tremendously, how important that is. Your neurotube is closing, your body's position is coming into place, the whole body is coming into the normal position. And in order to prevent those abnormalities, you need the baby to have constant nutrition at that point. I don't have an elaborate answer in front of me as you just portrayed. So it's really good to ask you, how fast becomes avoided or broken when what is it that we should think about in terms of some of our habits? Things like eating and drinking intentionally, smoking, all this stuff. Sometimes it does break our fast without us realizing. And also, one other question that some people may not necessarily know is, does using an asthma inhaler break my fast? That's quite an interesting one. And actually, it's quite funny because I was speaking to there's a consensus an ulama about there, isn't it? There is a consensus out there. And I was speaking to an ulama about that as well the other day. Actually, using an inhaler does not break your fast. That's the majority decision. It's not their decision. It's the majority decision. And there's a few aspects to that. Firstly, an asthma attack is very, very dangerous. That's the biggest thing out there. And the blue inhaler, which is basically a reliever, that's used for when you have an asthma attack. And an asthma attack, for people who don't know, so your windpipe sort of becomes narrow. So it's basically a long pipe, and that pipe becomes really, really narrow. So if someone imagine a pipe, and you've got your garden hose pipe. Imagine just putting your finger on it, and the water starts to trickle because it just can't come through. Imagine that happening to your breathing. It's quite a life-threatening situation, especially for most people who are really sensitive to it. And I think it's critically important that in Ramadan, those inhalers are not stopped, because you've got your preventers and you've got your relievers. Relievers prevent those asthma attacks that happen out of the blue. You're walking down the street, you're suddenly out of breath, you need to use an inhaler. And the preventers are there to make sure those attacks don't happen in the first place. And most ulama actually say that because it's not a nutritional feed to the body, but it's actually a medical need to the body to make sure that the functioning of the body, and it actually helps you to go through the fast easily. And because it's a medical need and not a nutritional supplement to the body, it's allowed. And the funny reason I asked him that was because I had my clinical examinations the other day,
Right.
and I had to teach someone how to use an inhaler, and I was fasting during that time.
All right.
And I used to teach someone, you have to use the inhaler on yourself before you
course.
give it to someone else to teach them how to use it.
Mhm.
So I had to use it. I went through the normal fast as I did, and then afterwards I asked ulama and I researched myself as well. And general consensus is you are allowed to use it.
Okay. Will having a blood test break my fast?
So that's quite a big misconception. People stay away from blood tests thinking that it's going to break their fast. But actually, if you think about the concept of taking blood, nothing's going in, essentially. When they put a needle in the body, blood just ushers straight out. There's no chemical that goes inside the body. There's no chemical that goes into the blood. All it is blood coming out into your tube. And that will not invalidate a fast. Things that invalidate a fast is having an IV drip of glucose, because that's glucose going inside your body, or saline drip that's going inside your body. But in a blood test, because the blood is coming out of the veins, that would not invalidate a fast.
Okay. We mentioned about dehydration before.
Yep.
In certain instances that you may have encountered, could dehydration become so bad that you have to break your fast?
Definitely. So one of the conditions of Ramadan is when it comes to a point that it becomes life-threatening, or you're losing consciousness of the real world.
Yeah.
So common symptom of dehydration is when you have decreased mental ability, essentially. You start losing consciousness, you don't exactly know what's going on. That's one of the symptoms where dehydration has reached its max, where it's starting to affect the brain, because the brain is the last place where dehydration will affect.
Yeah.
So if it does reach that point, ulama say that it is acceptable for you to break your fast, because it is a medical condition at that point.
Okay. I wanted to also go on to, and I'm still happy for people to call in. I'll just remind you of the number, 0333 011 6786. So if you want to ask any questions to our medical student who's our guest today, Usman Sharif, please do call in. It is your last opportunity to ask any questions. There might be some questions that you'd like to pose in terms of how you want to carry on the exceptionally good fasting etiquettes that you've managed to uphold in this month. So I implore you to call in if you would like to share any of your thoughts, any of your tips, because this is a month of training, and what about the rest of the 11 months? Surely you must have come across something that you found useful and you would like to share it. Knowledge is incumbent on all Muslims, and it's our duty to share them. But I request you to call in and share some of those with us, or drop us a Facebook comment, please do. Training and physical activity. Now, a lot of our young generation are very, very much into their physical presence in terms of their health and the kind of their kind of approach to looking healthy and feeling healthy. This month shouldn't necessarily be a month where we're abstaining not only from food, but we shouldn't be abstaining from moderate exercise. And that takes a number of different shapes and forms, does it not? Yeah. So, for sports enthusiasts out there, and I know our Drive Time team are very, very sporty. I mean, they put the studio elites to a lot of pain the other day in terms of is the other Usman laughing in the other studio? Give us a wave if you are. Yes, it is. We managed to put Ish and Usman through a lot of pain.
Oh, is that?
In terms of their post-iftar physical activity with a personal trainer that we had in the studio.
Oh, wow.
So it was like a challenge to raise some funds for the studio in terms of the equipment.
That's good.
So very much at the forefront of our minds, we have got exercise and physical activity. Any kind of tips around how we would have wanted to look at that in terms of baking that into our daily fasting and our routine?
Sure. So firstly, I'm going to start this off with what Ramadan essentially is. When we actually fast, the main purpose of actually getting the benefit of Ramadan is not changing from the norm. And actually, I'm quite happy how the generation these days, the youngsters these days, are so much into exercise and going to the gym. And I think that's quite a positive development, especially in this age where obesity is rising at a rate that's never been seen before, and the obesity-related issues. But what most personal trainers actually suggest is that exercise should still be part of the normal routine. Whether that's during your fast, or it's quite difficult to have it between iftar and suhoor, just because there's tarawih and there's hardly any time, and you've just eaten as well. But what they have suggested is that cardio exercises should actually be decreased, purely down to the fact that you're already dehydrated. But actually stuff like weightlifting, building muscles and stuff, what they suggested was that the sets and the reps should be decreased, but not completely finished, essentially. So you should carry on with the normal exercises. Like for example, I used to go to the gym every day, especially in the last few weeks. Even during Ramadan, I carried it on as normal. I decreased my sets and my reps, but I still carried on as normal. And actually what most people don't realize is actually, well, we all know that we lose weight, which is quite a good thing in Ramadan. Well, most of us lose weight. Well, the research suggests that the overall majority...
I'm yet to be convinced.
Overall majority shows that we do lose weight. Even if we don't lose weight, research clearly suggests that what we do is we lose something called LDL. So LDLs is your bad cholesterol. And you've got two types of cholesterol in the body. So you've got LDLs and HDLs. LDLs is like low density lipoprotein. They're your bad cholesterols. They're the one who pick up all the fat that you eat and take it to your peripheral tissue and store it there as fat. And on the other side, you've got something called HDLs. HDLs are the good boys, essentially. What they do is they pick up that fat that's been stored and put it to the liver for it to be excreted out of the body. What Ramadan does is it decreases the amount of bad cholesterol you've got, and increases the amount of good cholesterol you've got. And that's good for people who are going to the gym, essentially, because what you want is want to get rid of those fat stores and actually want to build up protein. But what is critical here is to make sure that what is supplemented with it when you have your iftar and suhoor. If it's supplemented with pakora, samosas and chapatis and those, I forgot the name out of my mind. It's gonna paratha, basically. That's what I was gonna get my word to. Paratha. It's not gonna be enough for even if you hit the gym. Just to make important thing out of this is to make sure that your exercise is continued, well, not as vigorously, but to make sure that you do have a good diet to follow up with.
Okay, that's really good. I was also caught sight of the fact that we need to get things like plenty of sleep, but that's very difficult. Hydration levels, increase your carb intake before suhoor. Carbs like oats and wheat are always a good option. Dates are a very good source of energy in terms of the boosting levels of glycogen that's stored in the muscles and liver for between meals. And also looking at, make sure you warm up. While fasting doesn't neglect your stretches, warm up properly loosens any stretch. I guess the actual whole way that we actually approach our tarawih, our prayer, that's also a physical exertion to a certain level, and it does help with digestion. So don't dismiss the fact that praying is not a form of exercise. It is.
That was one of the messages I wanted to get out today as well, that actually, even if you don't exercise as much as you think you do, if you're reading your 5 prayers, that itself, that
and on top we've got tarawih 20 rakats,
extra whole 5 prayers, because it's 20 rakats essentially, which I think is a perfect exercise, especially after iftar, the food we eat. If you read the whole 20, even standing there for that long, it's 5 minutes per rakah, I would say, if you're reading the Quran. And actually just standing there is still using a lot of your energy. And then keeping going for ruku and sujood. It's an amazing exercise. Just going to add on to that, Badr Muzammal's just dropped a message.
Yes,
Have you seen it?
Yeah, go ahead. I think it's a bit of a cryptic. He's got a bit of tongue-in-cheek approach to these things, but do go ahead and shall I read the question out?
Yes.
Eating so well in Ramadan and keeping healthy. I don't know whether that's personally. I think he has been keeping well.
Well, his physique
did mention that he's been trying to abstain from a lot of the fast foods. Now we have a big feast tomorrow. Is there dangers to the body? Oh my gosh.
It's quite an interesting question actually, and it's quite a controversial one as well. I wouldn't say there's dangers to the body, but I'd say it is harmful to a certain extent, depending on how much you eat. Because you've gone from a state of complete fasting for 30 days to a day where you completely annihilate everything that's right in front of you, if I'm correct. But like I mentioned before, the best way to encounter this is moderation.
Yeah.
Because research, again, I'm going back to my research
disagree
again.
with you. I think moderation goes out of the window.
Moderation does go out the window.
You visit your aunties and your uncles and your grannies and your granddads, and they all say, "Oh,
have this and have that.
Oh yeah, Baba, you have this. Oh, but you have this, and you have to eat it, and you can't say no to them because it's so disrespectful."
No,
you probably. I don't think anybody takes a samosa and shoves it down the sofa, back of the sofa. If there is anybody like that, I need to know about it, because we'll send the samosa police out to you.
There's a couple of sides to this actually. Firstly, we can't really say no to our elders. Elders are elders at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But secondly, I'm going to go back to my research again, which suggests that weight gain post-Ramadan is massive. A lot of people go through a phase where they gain weight post-Ramadan. And the reason is we suddenly start eating. And the body, because for 30 days, if you don't eat much, especially during the day, your body goes into a state where it prepares the hormones accordingly, where it thinks, actually, this guy is going to continue like this for the next few months or next few weeks. This is how the future looks like to the body. And then when we suddenly start eating at Eid, it's actually a little bit dangerous to the body, because your body's not prepared. Your hormones that your stomach produces or your intestines produce, or even your bile that breaks down all the fat, that is not there in enough amount. And unfortunately, that leads to weight gain straight after Ramadan.
Okay.
And one of the biggest things to do post-Ramadan is to make sure you can sort of binge eat in Eid one day, 2 days would be enough. But then to carry on the same procedure for a week, 2 weeks, it's really harmful to the body. Like I mentioned before, moderation would be critical to make sure that you eat in small amounts but eat often. That would be the best way to ease the body back into the state of eating again and again. So small amounts, where instead of having 2 leg pieces, just have 1, or just that moderation. But I know it's difficult for people, but actually I can guarantee you that at the end of the day, end of a few weeks, you're actually going to be thankful to your own self for actually doing that to yourself. Because I know most of us have a number in mind. I know I do, of how much I wanted to lose this Ramadan.
Right.
I haven't checked. I was waiting for this evening to check. Close to iftar time, and I've lost most of my fat to check how much I've lost. And actually, most people want to stay there. So if you want to stay there, the best thing is to eat in moderation, and secondly, to eat healthily, even on Eid. I know it's difficult with all the pakoras and the roast and biryanis around. It's quite difficult to eat healthily. But actually, I think it can be done. And I'd say moderation, just to make sure your body doesn't go into an overdrive.
Very good kind of advice around this. I think what we will do, we'll go on a very quick commercial break, and then we'll come back. When we come back, I want to focus on some of the stuff that we've discussed before. Maybe look at mental health. And today happens to be the anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire. That's affected our community in a big way. I will be heading on down there straight after the show. Any reflections on that in terms of how it's affected people, because it's affected not only their health but their mental health and well-being. Have you seen anybody, or have you come across anybody in your kind of interactions that have been affected? And just generally, what do you feel about this? And I'll be posing some questions to Usman around how people are employing coping strategies around dealing with trauma. So come back to us after the break, inshallah. This is the Healthy Ramadan Show on RamadanFM2018.com.
British Muslims.
Atlantic Distributions. Whether it is frozen fish, marinated Lahori masala fish or lamb offals. We have them available at very competitive prices. We are wholesale suppliers to restaurants, butchers and caterers. Visit us at 51 to 53 Upton Lane, London E7 9PA. Contact us on 07415 474 185.
Usman needs the adhesive to work. If not, his day will be a disaster. Ah! So, Usman, if you really need something to bond, grab a tube of CT1 from your local stockist. An incredibly powerful sealant and construction adhesive that's fast, flexible and strong. It can be used anywhere, even underwater. For more info, ct1limited.com or follow us on Facebook or ring us on 0208 555 1448.
Through Minhaj Welfare Foundation, your giving saves lives. Your support has provided more than 3 million people with access to clean and safe water, emergency relief in natural disaster and crisis-affected areas around the world, supported orphans and needy children with a better future. This year, your help can do more. Donate your zakat, sadaqah and charitable donations to any of your chosen projects. Call now on 0300 30 30 777 or visit us at minhajwelfare.org.
In an age of technological advancement, mass communication and social media, having the right website and app can be the difference that your business needs. AppSite Tech are here to take your business to the next level. No matter how simple or how sophisticated your requirements are, our technicians will work with you to create a bespoke website and app for your organization. Call us now on 07538 081212 or visit appsitetech.co.uk and book your free consultation now.
Amigos, the signature name when it comes to burgers and shakes. Our succulent burgers are prepared in front of you while you wait. Whether you go for the 6-ounce Mexican or the 10-ounce Texan, or you decide to go for our messy fries or buffalo wings, one thing you're guaranteed is quality. We've also got a range of desserts including our trademark shakes in all your favourite flavours. We're based at 400 Cranbrook Road in Gants Hill, so come down to dine in or order in on Uber Eats or Just Eat. Amigos, hats off to great burgers.
Through Minhaj Welfare Foundation, your giving saves lives. Your support has provided more than 3 million people with access to clean and safe water, emergency relief in natural disaster and crisis-affected areas around the world, supported orphans and needy children with a better future. This year, your help can do more. Donate your zakat, sadaqah and charitable donations to any of your chosen projects. Call now on 0300 30 30 777 or visit us at minhajwelfare.org.
Ramadan FM 2018,
The voice of British Muslims.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the Healthy Ramadan Show with Abdul Malik, your host. We are in the very last moments of the Healthy Ramadan Show. We have gone through the whole month immensely quickly, and we've just kind of gone through very, very quickly in terms of the month itself. And there's been a lot of things around health and well-being that we've covered, and mashallah, I'm very appreciative of the guests that we've had so far. There's been a lot of things that we've tried to cram in, and there was a lot of things that I would love to have talked about, but we just simply haven't had the opportunity or the time commitment from people to be able to cover everything. And it's an hour show, so we try to cram in as much as possible. Usman, as I mentioned, Grenfell today we're marking the first year anniversary. I remember sitting in the studio this time last year with one of the counsellors from Rahma Counselling, and she's a specialist researcher around trauma. And we were very much in the throes of getting to grips with what had actually been unravelling in the news media in terms of what happened out there. And this very day, we're marking the year's memorial for Grenfell. a lot has happened in that time, and it's affected the community, and it's affected a lot of the Muslim community. I mean, that tower block represents 70% of the population, and the residents were Muslim. That's quite a catastrophic disaster that happened, and how it unfolded. And now we've had the inquest, and we've realised that there's been a lot of negligence around that. How do families cope with all of this? Not only just the families, but the surrounding community. How it's been remarkable how they've rallied round, and we've got an Islamic institution there that have been doing a lot of stuff on the ground. How would you contemplate, looking at individuals and families and how they've gone through this grief? And it is as a form of grief, isn't it?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I think it was quite a sad moment last year when, unfortunately, this tragedy happened. I pray for the souls that have departed. May Allah bless their souls and grant them the highest of places in Jannah.
Amen.
And those that are still struggling with the illnesses and the burns and the health problems that they've had since then, I pray that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them health and iman, inshallah. It's quite a big tragedy for not only those people who are living there, who are still alhamdulillah alive and amongst us, but it's difficult for the people who've lost many beloved ones. And I'm sure you've seen how recently they've been doing the inquiry, where they've been calling people in, and some of the stories I've read about how people have lost babies and young children, some for brothers and sisters who left this place a year ago, and it's quite hard on a family to go through something like that. It's basically what you'd see in a model of grief. So the Kubler-Ross's model of grief sort of suggests that you start off by going through a phase of denial initially, and we see that quite commonly. Patients completely deny what's happened, and because they're in such a state of shock at that time, when patients like that come in, patients who are themselves injured or are losing someone close to themselves, they're in a state of complete denial. And from a state of complete denial, they go to a state of anger where actually they vent out against what happened. And we saw that post the event, how the anger of Muslims and other communities, not only Muslims but other people who were living there, how angry they got at when they found out what the problem was, how the anger came out. And then you start looking for bargaining options of how. I think we've got a call.
I think you do. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum, caller. Assalamu alaikum.
Malik.
Assalamu alaikum. Is that Brother Abu Mumin?
Yes, it is.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for calling. We are just mentioning the year's memorial around Grenfell. Abu Mumin, you're from Eden Care. Would you like to just share some thoughts around what we have had to contend with in terms of the people that have been affected by Grenfell?
Well, I will first of all, my apologies. I was supposed to come onto your show, and I just had a family emergency. So Jazakallah khair for inviting me.
That's fine.
This time last year, I myself was in Itikaf when the Grenfell fire it was happening, and basically with Eden Care, what we do, we provide end of life and burial support to those most in need. And we've, as an organization, because it was a national tragedy, we've offered, on behalf of the Muslim community or on behalf of the community, to offer funeral and burial services for free. Not knowing how we're going to fund it, but we've gone to all our partners, and alhamdulillah, the response was very good. And we had to forge new partnership to, cater. And we weren't sure. And we sent out a lot of volunteers into the Grenfell area, like everybody did. Everybody went out to offer their help. And one by one, we started getting referrals. The first burial referral was of the Hajj Ali family.
Yes.
And so basically we started off with one, and we've done in total 42 Grenfell burials.
Mashallah.
And there was about 70, in total 71 people passed away.
Yes.
And obviously, because we're person-centered, so we worked very closely with the families to organize and plan for the burial of their loved ones. And what happened, so for us and our volunteers, we've become very close to them. So going back today after 1 year, it's, I don't know, I feel very uncomfortable. I feel very sad because it's all those memories are flooding back. But I'm gonna go there. These people, they need our help and support.
Of course.
Whether it's anniversary or not, And I'm gonna go, inshallah, and I hope some of your listeners they can come to. Of course, yourself. I know you're coming. Inshallah.
Yes, inshallah. Yeah, I'll join you later on, inshallah. So, yeah, I've got a medical student with me on this show, Usman Sharif. He's got some good insight in terms of the medical aspect around end-of-life care and bereavement. So it's very good of you to call in. Jazakallah khair for calling in, and Jazakallah khair for all the good work that you're doing in the community. It's a shame that you couldn't come into the studio.
Next year, inshallah. Next year,
inshallah. Yes, we will do that.
Okay.
Thank you for calling in.
Assalamu alaikum.
I just want to say Jazakallah khair for Momin, for the amazing work he's actually done to actually support and help those victims out there, and help the families who are going through such a difficult process, going through a process of losing someone so suddenly, and it's such a tragedy. It's quite difficult on the family, and I'm sure he's doing all the best he can. His volunteers are doing all the best they can to make it easier for the families, and even those who don't have a family around, unfortunately, make it easy for the deceased soul to actually reach its eternal place.
Alhamdulillah. Eden Care, you can find out more about them, EdenCareUK.com, and if you'd like to donate, because they do need a lot of funding and support for the program. Likewise, Minhaj has got their burial service. They're looking for Sadaqah Jariyah. So this is a good time. Last day, potentially, of Ramadan. You are discharging your alms, discharging your zakat and fidya, and
possibly Laylatul Qadr for all we know.
Qadr. And so, please, anything like this would be very a worthy cause to donate to. Please do think about it. You will be donating according to your family's wishes, in accordance to your personal wishes. But don't forget that to bury needy Muslims with dignity and in accordance to their wishes and faith is incumbent on all of us. We shouldn't think that every Muslim is going to get a decent burial. Some of them do not have recourse to funds. Alhamdulillah, really good to have Brother Abu Mumin calling in to talk about Grenfell and his insight and his thoughts around that. And do take his kind reminder to try and join us. There will be a community iftar, and there's going to be a silent walk in the vicinity of Grenfell. If you can make the time and then you can get down there, please do so. Jazakallah khair. So, mental health has been affected by a lot of people when on the ground, not only for the people that have been affected, but also in terms of the support services, the fire services, the humanitarian assistance, the counselling. Everybody's been affected by this. I mean, how do you grapple with this? I mean, this is on a scale which is quite unprecedented, and looking at the communities that came into the North Kensington. They were obviously all from a deprived background. In the early 50s, the Jamaican community came over because there was a need for people to mobilise in terms of workforce in the country post-war. So that area has always had pockets of deprivation, and it's affected them, and now they need to be rehoused, still living in hotels. It's a proper dilemma, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately, and problem is when you have tragedies like this, you don't forget them quick, unfortunately, and they stay in the mind for a very, very long time. And some models of grief show that tragedies such as big as this stay in the mind of people for at least 10 years, as if it happened to them just yesterday. And I think that's quite astonishing. And something of such a big scale. I mean, we still talk about the tsunami that happened. I can't remember what year it was now off the back of my head, but the tsunami or the earthquake that happened in Kashmir in 2005, those things are still fresh in our mind. Yeah. But so something as big as Grenfell Tower, where you wouldn't expect something of that scale in a city as big as London, and the way it happened in Ramadan, and with the high Muslim majority community as well, it really touched everyone, and it touched not even only Muslims, it touched everyone who lived in London. And I don't know if you've seen the news today. There was this London Underground train that was passing just past Grenfell Tower, and he stopped his train and he waved a flag in support of the Grenfell Tower, and it shows that the support is not only from just a few people here and there, it's actually worldwide, and everyone's got the support for Grenfell Tower, and everyone feels strongly about how much it affected the community, unfortunately. And that brings on to mental health, like you mentioned. A lot of people go into depression, unfortunately, when they go through something as big as that. And in our community, we disregard these issues like as if it's nothing. A lot of us have heard about what recently happened in Saudi Arabia, unfortunately, as well. And it highlights how big of an issue mental health is. And people disregard it, but what they need to understand, just like cancer or COPD or arthritis and having a hearing problem is a medical problem, depression itself is a medical problem. Depression happens when you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, essentially, and that could be because the brain is such a complex structure. It's really hard to get our heads around how it works, but your way of thinking affects the way the chemicals are produced in your brain. And depression itself is a medical issue. And for people who are suffering out there, people who if you think you or your loved one is going through depression, please, my plea is, the biggest thing, if you take one thing out of this conversation, is please go and seek some sort of help, because there's amazing support in the NHS, so there's amazing charities around who can help you with depression. And it's not just about taking the pills. It's you could talk to people. There's so many different strategies out there to help people combat depression, because depression itself can lead on to, it's a comorbidity for other illnesses, unfortunately. It can lead on to other problems. But actually, if you can tackle this problem, mental health, if we can tackle this in our community, I think we can do a lot better for all the other problems like diabetes, obesity that we're facing in the community these days.
I think the fundamental point is, with any kind of physical health needs, there's always going to be a mental health need associated with that. So it's very, very important that we come forward and disclose and talk openly around that, and try to overcome some of the stigma. I think that's the biggest problem, isn't it?
That is the biggest problem, because people think of illnesses as something visible. If I've got a big scar here or something, or like a big spot here, people can see that. People see I've got an illness. Mental illness, unfortunately, cannot be seen. And we disregard any illnesses that can't be seen or felt. But this disregard of ours in mental health, we think someone's done jadoo on us, or we've got some jinn inside us. But actually, end of the day, it is a medical illness. Our science and information tells us that there is chemically something wrong with the brain, and that can be fixed and can be helped and managed if not fixed. So we need to stop disregarding problems such as mental health, depression, schizophrenia, bipolar disorders. We can't shove them just on the side. We need to tackle them, and we need to face up to them.
Thank you for that. It's not talked about enough, I have to say, and we can talk more about it. And lo and behold, we've come to the end of the show. It's been a really personally, it's been a pleasure for me to host the show as always, and it's been very, very gratifying to have a lot of the guests that have come on to the show. I'd like to give my personal thanks to the studio and the team that support us and enable us to run these shows, and also to all my guests. I'd like to personally thank Maulana Yunus Dudwala from Bart's Health Trust, Shamsia Begum from Quit Right Tower Hamlets, Mina Begum from Inspirited Minds, Karima bint Dawood, the Islamic nutritionist who's actually down at Grenfell as we speak, trying to help, and also to our esteemed guest today, Usman Sharif, our medical student who came in to support me on the last show. Jazakallah khair for coming to the show. It's been really useful to have a recap in terms of what we've covered, and wish you every success in your medical career and your endeavours. Do come back to us.
Of course, definitely.
And would you like to just briefly mention something about Minhaj Healthcare?
Yes, so just before we quickly go off, so Minhaj Healthcare is a healthcare-based clinic that we've set up in Minhajul Quran. For more information, you can visit minhajhealthcare.co.uk. We officially do have a website now, and we're basically there to meet the needs of the community. If they've got any health needs, you can either email us at info@minhajhealthcare.co.uk. We've got consultant pediatrician, we've got a GP, we've got a consultant in acute medicine. We've got a wide variety of doctors for you to answer all your health needs and any problems you might have. And inshallah, you'll see us soon doing health clinics, drop-in health clinics during Jummah or after post-Jummah. And you'll see more of us around, but do pop in first floor of Minhaj al-Quran, the mosque. If you just come up and ask someone about it, there should be someone there to help you, inshallah.
What a way to end the show. We've discussed health and well-being, and we've mentioned Minhaj Healthcare. We did the initial promo for the show from the actual health suite, so do come in and take a look at what the Adara has managed to achieve. And Jazakallah khairan for listening into the show. We want you to be part of Ramadan FM 2018 as we move forward. The studio is looking to grow in the future. We've got 24/7 license to go full time. Please support us and donate to this worthy cause. And you can find out more details on RamadanFM2018.com. Facebook also will be updating you on what's happening. We're going to have a bit of a farewell session later on in the evening, so do remain tuned in and listen to the show. This is Abdul Malik, your host, signing out. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.